Right, today we talk about self-harm. So we went through a whole process. We did four others. We did depression, anxiety, bipolar. Yesterday we did borderline personality disorder. So today we're talking about self-harm and what is self-harm and how it affects us. And we would, in the counseling practice, probably also get some of our clients who would be self-harming. It's quite a common occurrence. It happens a lot around us. It's hidden. People normally self-harm where you can't see. So we'll go a bit on a journey around the thing of self-harm. So what is self-harm? Self-harm is self-harm or self-injury or self-mutilation. That's the three words that is normally used for it. Refers to people deliberately hurting their bodies, and it's done in secret without anyone knowing. Some young people do it once, while others do it just to cope. It's a way of coping with stress. So, especially amongst young people, it's a way of coping with stress. It's how they get a release from a stressful situation by making use of self-harm. The common types of self-harm is cutting, but there are also other forms: burning, punching your body, picking skin or sores are also some other forms of self-harm. So some people might not cut, but they'll have a sore and they'll keep on picking, and that sore won't heal, but they'll just keep on scratching it and damaging the sore. So that's another form of self-harm. So they say that people do this not to kill themselves. So they don't do this to commit suicide. They do this to find a way to cope with stressful events or stressful lifestyle. So that's why we get it especially amongst young people, that's really under a lot of stress. And that's the way of them with coping. So again, it's not trying to kill themselves, it's trying to cope. But as we go further, we'll say that there's a stage when it changes into where they want to commit suicide, but the normal self-harming effect is not to kill themselves. Right. Why do people harm themselves? Many young people describe self-harm as a way of coping with feeling numb or intense pain, distress, or unbearable negative feelings, thoughts or memories. They are trying to change how they feel by replacing the emotional pain or pressure with a physical pain. So they've got this emotional pain or this emotional stress, and the way of coping with this emotions is by physical pain, by actually hurting yourself and giving release to it. It's not a thing of like punishing yourself or doing something and you feel you need to be punished because you did something wrong. It's a way of saying I've got so much stress built up, and if I have a physical pain, it takes away my emotional pain. So that's why a lot of people do this. Others self-harm to punish themselves due to feelings of guilt and shame, and to feel again, to be part of the whole thing. I want to feel something. I'm emotionally not attached to people. I don't feel like I've got emotions anymore. And a way to cope with that is I hurt myself so I can feel. I need to feel because I need to get in touch with feelings again. So that's why they do this. Okay. Most young people self-harm. For them, it's just to cope. So when you get with clients that self-harm, you need to work on coping strategies with them. Obviously, the self-harming is not a good coping strategy. So what are we going to do to help you to cope? And again, we know the counseling is like, I'm not giving them the coping strategy. They will have to come up with it. I, as the counselor, will only guide them to get their strategy. Okay. Self-harm can be something that someone tries once, or it can become a habit. The problem is that the release or the relief they get from self-harm is temporary. It's not a permanent release. So the situation stays the same, the stress stays the same, and that's why they continually self-harm, to continue to get this feeling of release. So that's what they say, it can start off, they only do it once, but it can form a habit because the situation stays the same. So they feel better for a moment, but later on they're like, I need to get that feeling again of release. I need to get a feeling of displacing my pain from my emotions to physical pain. So that's why they do it again. Avoiding self-harm. So there are a few, and sorry for the writing, it's so small, but there are quite a few sort of suggestions which people can do instead of the physical self-harm. So one of them is try holding ice cubes in your hand and hold them so that you feel the pain from the very cold. So that's a way of sort of trying to change from physically cutting or physically hurting yourself, but with holding ice cubes and things like that. The other one is wear a rubber band on your wrist and snap it when you feel the need, like these rubber bands we have. So just snap them when you feel the need to hurt yourself, instead of, again, cutting. Or it goes further by saying, use the red pen to draw on areas where you might normally cut. And I don't know how effective they are, these suggestions are, but it's always, you try and do anything possible with your client to try and help them to not self-harm. A good one is work it off, go and exercise. Join the gym. Or do some form of exercise, start running, or so change from this sort of physical, because you don't know how to get rid of this stress, to an exercise routine maybe that will help you to get rid of this stress. Scribbling with red pen on a piece of paper, maybe just scratching. Try the breathing and relaxation exercises, and one workshop we're going to do in the future will be focused on relaxation exercises, what we can do, especially with our clients who's got anxiety, is relaxation exercises. Try and focus on something around you. Look at maybe nature, or focus on something. Try and get your focus away from what you want to do now. Focus away from trying to hurt yourself now, hurt your body now. So it's try and change your focus. And this is also part of what you as a counselor will need to discuss with your client and say, what can we do? What can you do to focus away from actually hurting yourself? Talk to someone. Talk to someone's a good thing. Normally find out with your client who's their closest, who's their network, who are the people around them. If you've got a special, let's say a special mobile phone which you use specifically for clients, you never give out your own personal phone, talk to someone or let them text you. Text that phone. I know some counselors that say to people, you're welcome to, whenever this and this occurs, send me a text message. I don't guarantee you that I'm going to reply, but just to get it out and let it and tell it to someone. So if you have like a work or a counselling number only dedicated to your counselling practice, let them send you a text message if they have to. But also tell them that I might not reply. There's no guarantee I'm going to reply, because you don't want them to sit and wait. We know you're going to reply anyway. So the normal thing is normally to switch off your phone after hours anyway. So they can just send messages to help them to just get it out. Because the main thing about this self-harm thing is also they've got this stress and they want to get a release. So by maybe sending you a text message in that regard can also be a way for them to try. Right? If you find it hard to remember your options, write them down, put them in your phone, or whenever you need it. So that's like you sit with your client and you work out a different plan. So we're going to, when you want to self-harm, you're going to do this and this and this and this and this. And the guide here says, put it on your phone. Let them type it out on their phone, on their notepad or whatever on their phone. And when they want to self-harm, let them look at that, look at the options. Because when you get into that situation, they're like, what did that person say again? Or they're too stressful, they can't remember what we discussed in the counseling room. Let them look at that. So give them the tools. Because that's what counseling is all about, is we're trying to give our clients tools to help when they get into a bad situation. In the process, also helping our clients to actually cope with their lives. The problem with self-harm is it can actually also overtake their life. That they can't really function without hurting themselves some way. Going through a stressful event, quickly need to go somewhere and hurt themselves. It changes from once a day or once a week to a few times per day. So I've known someone who really cut so bad, it was on her arms everywhere, it wasn't even hidden anymore. And the cuts were so deep that every time they had to get stitches. So that's when we talk about really, really bad self-harm. Sort of things we call the ambulance, because there's so much blood due to the fact that you just want to let this out. So there are different ways. Self-injury behaviors, what do? Self-injury behavior is carving. Carve your skin out with something. Scratching. Branding. It's like branding. I know some kids at school would use their pencils, the back of the pencil, and they would heat it up with a lighter, and they would actually burn themselves with the back of the pencil. So just to cope. Right, marking. We talk picking and pulling hair and skin, like some would physically pull out their hair. Burning abrasions. Ingestion of sharps and toxins. Some people will actually swallow stuff like the most common one is cutting, biting, head banging, bruising, hitting, and the new one is excessive body piercing.
What was the last one?
Excessive body piercing.
Okay.
I met someone that had 102 body piercings. So we're talking about excessive here. We're not talking about one little stud or whatever. We're talking about excess. So it's going through the pain of actually something happening. So and when we talk about excessive body piercings, people that do it themselves too. It's not. They don't go to someone to do this. They actually do the body piercings themselves. But all sorts of ways. But the most common one that we talk about, we all know about, is cutting. But these things are hidden. Our clients don't talk about it. They don't mention it. I think excessive body piercing, we don't have a choice. We'll see it. But yeah. It's a reality, and this is what we work with. And I think the more stressful life gets, the more people will have to find ways of coping with what's happening. And unfortunately, one of the ways of coping is hurting yourself, getting rid of stress, getting rid of what's happening in your emotions outside. Another thing is what I mentioned earlier, suicidal or suicide. The people that self-injure or self-harm have no intention of suicide. But when it starts to take over their life completely and they can't cope with this and they start feeling guilty because of the fact that they do this, then they get to a place where they don't have hope, and then they commit suicide. So it's not in the plan, but because of the fact that it gets so excessive and starts taking total control of the situation, then they say, well, there's no use of it, and they end up ending their life. So it's not a case where your client is suicidal, but it can lead to that with the fact that they get totally in despair, or they also get very ashamed of the fact that, and also when you've got a client that's self-harming, don't make a big thing of it. Act totally, almost as if it's a normal thing. We're going to talk about this. We're going to help you. It's a mental thing. I'm going to help you to cope and find better ways of coping, because it's a way of coping. So that is a bit of an introduction to the topic of self-harm. So I'm going to switch off the camera now, and then we can chat about self-harm amongst ourselves and